Welcome back to English Through Wisdom. I hope you learned something valuable from our last lesson. It is wonderful to have you here again today.
He was 19 years old, dressed in silk, surrounded by 200 servants who would die for him if he asked, and he had never once, in his entire life, been told the truth by another human being. Every morning the same words greeted him, "Your Highness." Every evening, the same bow. Yet at night, alone in a room built for a king, he lay awake asking himself one question that no army could answer. If everyone respects me, why do I always feel completely alone? Years later, he finally understood the wisdom hidden behind that lonely question. Welcome to English Through Wisdom. Here we learn English through powerful stories and timeless lessons from cultures around the world. Today, we discover the story of a prince who owned everything, and the one thing gold could never buy him. Prince Aaron had known only one version of the world since the day he was born, a version where every door opened before he touched it. His father, the old king, had raised him the only way he knew how, through command. "A ruler is obeyed," the king used to say, tightening the young prince's sword belt with rough, impatient hands, "or he is nothing." Aaron had believed him completely. Why wouldn't he? Every proof of it surrounded him. When he entered a room, conversations stopped. When he raised his hand, servants moved. When he spoke, no one dared interrupt. This was respect, he thought. This was what it meant to be powerful. On the morning of his father's death, Aaron became king in every way but the crown itself, since the coronation would not happen for another year, out of tradition. He walked the palace halls that same afternoon, chin high, boots striking the marble floor like small explosions, and everyone he passed dropped into a bow so fast it looked rehearsed. It was rehearsed. He simply did not know that yet. That night, alone in his chamber, he caught his own reflection in a tall bronze mirror. A tired young man stared back at him, crown-shaped shadows under his eyes, jaw clenched from a day of being obeyed by everyone and understood by no one. He did not recognize the ache in his own chest. He only knew it had been there for years, quietly, underneath the noise of "Your Highness" repeated 1,000 times a day. The first crack appeared 3 months later, on an ordinary Tuesday that Aaron would remember for the rest of his life. Bored of council meetings and endless flattery, he asked his guard captain, a broad, quiet man named Doran, to bring him plain clothes. "I want to walk among my people," Aaron said, "and hear what they truly think of their king." Doran hesitated, then obeyed, because that was what everyone around Aaron did. Wrapped in a rough brown cloak, hood pulled low, Aaron walked into the market square just past sunset, when the heat had faded and the stalls were closing. He expected admiration. He expected, perhaps, quiet whispers of gratitude for his fair new laws on grain taxes. Instead, he found something that hit him harder than any sword ever could. 2 farmers stood beside a cart of unsold vegetables, unaware of who stood near them in the shadows. "Did you hear the prince raise the grain tax again?" one muttered. "Of course he did," the other laughed bitterly. "He has never carried a sack of grain in his life. He thinks a coin is grown, not earned." A woman nearby, folding cloth for the night, added without looking up, "We bow because a soldier stands behind us with a spear, not because our hearts want to bow." Laughter, quiet and sharp, passed between them like something forbidden and comfortable at once. Aaron stood frozen at the edge of the square, his own name a foreign, cutting sound in strangers' mouths. He had imagined, somewhere in the back of his mind, that fear and respect were simply 2 words for the same thing. Standing there in the fading light, he understood for the first time that they were opposites wearing the same clothes. He walked home that night without his usual straight-backed stride. For the first time in his life, his shoulders were bent under something heavier than a crown. Weeks passed. Aaron grew quieter in council, sharper with his questions, restless in a way his advisors could not explain. He began wandering, still disguised, into the villages surrounding the palace, searching for something he could not yet name. It was on one of these evenings that he met Elin. The old craftsman lived at the edge of a village called Marrow's End, in a house so small it seemed to apologize for existing. He mended tools, sharpened blades, fixed broken cartwheels, and asked for whatever payment people could afford, sometimes nothing at all. Aaron first noticed him because of the line outside his workshop, longer than any line he had ever seen outside his own throne room, and made entirely of people who smiled while they waited. "Why do they wait for him?" Aaron asked a boy standing nearby. "When there are 3 other craftsmen in this village?" The boy shrugged, as if the answer were obvious. "Because Elin never lies to you about your own cart. And because last winter when my father broke his leg, Elin fixed our roof for free and told no one." He paused, then added almost proudly, "Everyone here would carry that old man on their shoulders if he asked them to. He never asks." Aaron watched from a distance for an hour. He saw an argument break out between 2 farmers over a debt, and saw both men walk, without being told, straight to Elin's door to settle it fairly. He saw children run to greet the old man, not out of duty, but because they genuinely wanted to. No one bowed. No one bowed. No one used the word master. And yet Elin held more real power over that village than Aaron, with his soldiers and his crown, held over an entire kingdom. Unable to resist any longer, Aaron approached the old man's workshop that evening, still hooded, and asked the question that had been burning in him for weeks. "What power do you possess, old man, that makes these people follow you so willingly?" Elin did not look up from the blade he was sharpening. "None," he said simply. "I own nothing. I command no one." He finally raised his eyes, and something in that quiet gaze made Aaron feel, for the first time in his life, completely seen rather than merely obeyed. "Respect follows character," Elin continued. "Authority can only ever rent obedience. It can never buy loyalty." The words settled into Aaron like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through everything he thought he understood about himself. He returned to the palace that night, and, in a decision that surprised even him, tried to apply the lesson the fastest way he knew, through gifts. He ordered gold distributed to every household in the capital, expecting gratitude to follow like a trained dog. Instead, whispers spread even faster than before. "He thinks coins can buy what he refuses to earn," people said, and this time Aaron heard it clearly, without needing to hide in a market square. The gold had bought silence for exactly 1 day. Frustrated, he tried the opposite approach. Stricter laws, harsher punishments for disrespect, guards posted to report any citizen who spoke against the crown. For a few weeks the whispers stopped entirely, but something colder replaced them. Empty streets whenever he passed, doors shutting quietly at the sound of his horse, children pulled indoors by nervous mothers. He had traded quiet mockery for quiet fear, and somehow, standing in his own throne room surrounded by silence, he felt more alone than ever. It was Doran, his guard captain, who finally said what no one else dared to. "Your Highness," he said one evening, voice low, "forgive me, but you are not failing because you are too weak. You are failing because you keep trying to force something that can only be given freely." Aaron sat with those words for 3 sleepless nights. On the 4th day, he did something no one in the palace had seen him do before. He walked into the servants' hall, unannounced, and sat down at their long wooden table. Silence fell instantly, forks frozen mid-air, eyes darting toward the exits. "I am not here to punish anyone," Aaron said, his voice unsteady in a way he had never allowed it to be in public. "I am here because I have been a poor king, and I would like to learn how to be a better one, if any of you are willing to teach me." No one spoke for a long moment. Then an elderly cook named Marta, who had served 3 generations of the royal family, set down her spoon and said quietly, "You could start by asking our names instead of simply calling for you when you need something." He did. That same week, he learned the names of 42 people who had served him his entire life without once being seen by him as a person. The change that followed was not sudden, and it was not clean. Aaron made mistakes publicly and admitted them publicly. Something the old king had taught him was a weakness. He listened in counsel before speaking, even when he disagreed, even when it was uncomfortable. He walked, unhooded now, through the villages he ruled, stopping to repair what he could, apologize for what he could not, and simply listen to complaints he once would have dismissed as noise beneath his notice. Slowly, so slowly that Aaron himself barely noticed it happening, something in the kingdom began to shift. Doors stopped closing when he passed. Children stopped being pulled indoors. A farmer once stopped him in the road, not to beg or complain, but simply to thank him for a repaired bridge, and to ask with genuine curiosity how his family was doing. Years later, when Aaron was no longer young, and silver had crept quietly into his hair, the kingdom remembered him not as the strongest ruler in its long history, and not even as the wealthiest, but simply as the fairest. When he finally passed the crown to his own daughter, the streets outside the palace filled not with soldiers ordering silence, but with people who had come, entirely on their own, to say goodbye to a man they had chosen to love long after they had stopped being forced to obey him. He thought often, in those final years, of a small workshop at the edge of a village called Marrow's End, and of an old man who had told him the truth when everyone else had only told him what he wanted to hear. The story you just heard reflects one of the oldest truths found across nearly every culture on Earth, expressed in different words but always meaning the same thing at its core. Authority commands obedience, but only character earns loyalty. You will find this idea echoed in many traditions. In Chinese philosophy, Confucius taught that a ruler governed by virtue naturally draws people toward him, the way the North Star stays still, while other stars turn respectfully around it. In African proverbial wisdom, elders have long said that a chief is not the one who shouts loudest, but the one whose word people trust most. In Western thought, the same idea appears in the difference between what philosophers call positional power and personal power. One is given to you by a title, the other is built by you, action by action, year after year. What makes this wisdom so enduring is something almost every person eventually discovers for themselves, often the hard way. A title, a job position, a badge, or a crown can force someone to nod, to follow instructions, to say the polite thing in front of you. None of that requires them to actually believe in you. Real respect, the kind that survives when you are no longer watching, when you have no reward to offer and no punishment to threaten, can only be earned. It cannot be issued like an order, and it certainly cannot be purchased like a gift. This is exactly what Prince Aaron had to learn, painfully, over months of failed attempts. His gold could buy a day of gratitude. His stricter laws could buy weeks of silence. Neither could buy him what Elon, a man with nothing but a small workshop and an honest heart, had earned without ever trying to earn it at all. Now we understand why this wisdom has survived for centuries, passed quietly from parent to child, teacher to student, ruler to advisor. It survives because every generation needs to relearn it for itself. Power and respect look similar from a distance. Both bring people close to you. Both make people speak to you carefully. But only one of them stays in the room after the danger, the reward, or the audience disappears. Think for a moment about the people in your own life who you deeply respect. Chances are very few of them hold any real power over you. A grandmother who never raised her voice. A quiet coworker who always keeps their word. A friend who told you an uncomfortable truth when it would have been easier to simply agree with you. Now think about the opposite. Have you ever obeyed someone, followed their instructions perfectly, smiled politely in front of them, while feeling absolutely no respect for them underneath that smile. Most of us have. It might have been a boss who led through fear instead of trust, a teacher who demanded attention instead of earning it. Even sometimes ourselves, in moments when we tried to control a situation instead of genuinely connecting with the people inside it. Have you ever judged someone too quickly because of their title, their money, or their position, only to discover later that their character told a very different story? And on the harder side of this question, have you ever mistaken silence for agreement, assuming people around you respected you, when in truth, they were simply too afraid or too polite to tell you otherwise? Prince Aaron's story is uncomfortable precisely because it is so recognizable. Very few of us will ever rule a kingdom, but nearly all of us will at some point hold some form of power over another person. As a parent, a manager, an older sibling, a teacher, even simply as the stronger voice in a friendship. The question this story leaves us with is not really about kings and crowns at all. It is about us. When the reward is gone, when the punishment is gone, when no one is required to listen to you anymore, will people still choose to stand beside you? I would genuinely love to know your answer. Write it in the comments below. Here are 12 useful words and phrases from today's story, each explained simply and used in an everyday example. Obedience. Noun. Doing what someone tells you to do. Example. The soldier's obedience to his captain was total but not always respectful. Flatter. Verb. To praise someone insincerely, often to gain favor. Example. His co-workers flattered him in meetings but complained about him afterward. Disguised. Adjective. Hidden by wearing different clothes or a different appearance. Example. She walked through the city disguised as an ordinary tourist. Arrogance. Noun. An unpleasant feeling of superiority over others. Example. His arrogance made it hard for people to feel comfortable around him. Craftsman. Noun. A skilled worker who makes things by hand. Example. The old craftsman repaired the broken chair in less than an hour. Loyalty. Noun. A strong feeling of support and faithfulness towards someone. Example. Her loyalty to her friend never wavered, even during hard times. Frustrated. Adjective. Feeling upset because something is not working the way you want. Example. He grew frustrated after trying and failing to fix the problem twice. Genuine. Adjective. Real and sincere, not fake. Example. Her genuine smile made everyone in the room feel welcome. Settle. Verb. To reach an agreement and end a disagreement. Example. The two neighbors finally settled their argument over the fence. Transformation. Noun. A complete change in form or character. Example. His transformation from a harsh boss to a fair one surprised the whole team. Unwavering. Adjective. Staying strong and steady without changing. Example. Her unwavering support helped him through the most difficult year of his life. Earn. Verb. To gain something through effort, not simply receive it. Example. Trust must be earned slowly. It cannot be demanded instantly. Repeat the short paragraph aloud after listening. Focus on rhythm and natural pauses. He had imagined that fear and respect were simply two words for the same thing. Standing there in the fading light, he understood for the first time that they were opposites wearing the same clothes. No gold could buy what he was searching for. No law could force it into existence. It had to be earned, slowly, one honest moment at a time. A prince who owned an entire kingdom learned, painfully and slowly, that titles can command obedience, but only character can earn respect. It is a simple truth, yet one that takes many of us a lifetime to fully understand. Whatever power you hold in your own life, big or small, remember this. People will stand before you out of duty, but they will only stand beside you out of love. Keep learning English, keep discovering stories, and keep collecting wisdom from around the world.
If you enjoyed learning English through this ancient saying, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need this wisdom today. Until next time, keep learning English and keep collecting wisdom from around the world.